Hello, and welcome to John's Jam Sessions, the music podcast and other topics occasionally, hosted by me. And once again, it's just me today, guys. Guests are returning soon, so look forward to that. Today's episode is just going to be a bit more loose than usual, just a bit of a chat about a few topics that are quite relevant to kind of recent news and recent events. I think I'll be talking about is an event that will be happening tomorrow by the time this podcast comes out. So we'll just get right into it and just have a bit more of a loose podcast today. I wanted to talk about Linkin Park. Hopefully everyone here is aware of Linkin Park. Really kind of pioneered the new metal, rap metal, alternative rock scene all the way back from about 2000. They went on for about 17 years. I don't want to get too much into kind of my opinions on the discography yet, because I certainly think that would make an interesting episode further down the line. I think most people would agree that their first two albums are very monumental, groundbreaking albums. At least you could say that. Recently, Linkin Park have released a new best of singles collection album. I bought it. I bought it on vinyl. I've had a listen to it. I very much enjoyed it. It was great to kind of hear some of the songs that I've not heard for a while on being able to play it on vinyl, obviously, because I don't have any way to kind of play certain songs because they're not on the albums. But I did see a bit of discourse on the internet over this, and kind of more people were just a little bit more kind of confused of like, why was this released? Is this considered just like a cash grab, an excuse to just sell some records and keep on milking the band's kind of back catalogue? And I think there is something to be said there, especially been paying somewhat a bit of attention to Linkin Park over the years, and I have noticed that they have been reissuing these big box sets. I know they've definitely done it for Hybrid Theory and recently the second album. I've never really been a massive fan of like big box set collections and stuff like that, mainly because I just don't really care about demos or outtake tracks or anything like that. Sometimes I think it is a bit just a gathering of all the cuttings from the studio floor and then just trying to sell it, upscale the price and sell it, make a bit of money off it and stuff like that. So obviously this comes out and people are kind of saying that, it's like there's not really much new off this album, except for one sort of unreleased song, QWERTY, I believe it is. So people have kind of been like, what is the point of this? And that kind of brings me on to the whole concept of greatest hits albums in general, and how back in the day they did serve quite a purpose. And nowadays, through kind of Spotify and, like the ability to stream and playlists and stuff like that, kind of greatest hits have lost a bit of their like relevancy in like today's modern landscape, because to people who just purely listen for your music via streaming, it just doesn't really make any sense. It's basically just a glorified playlist, and you can't exactly argue with that. But I think there is a case to be made for greatest hits albums in general. I personally think that they're like great kind of entry points to a band, great kind of introductions. And if you want to get into a band and you're not quite sure and you don't know where to start or what album to pick up or anything like that, you can't go wrong with the greatest hits. I think another thing is, for people a bit more like myself who are like vinyl collectors and stuff like that, see, the whole point of vinyl is you get that full album experience, and that's what a lot of vinyl enthusiasts will really hammer down to you. But for me, sometimes I just want to hear the greatest hits. Sometimes I just want to hear the best stuff. And rather than selecting each record that these songs are off and listening to them individually, it's great to kind of have them all in one place and be able to kind of listen to them all together. So I do think there is still kind of a point for greatest hits albums to exist. I do think that sometimes bands can be lazy with them, package them in with a few songs and stuff like that, make not really do anything special with them. But I think with this Linkin Park one, we got the Numb Encore Jay-Z collaboration, which is good to have on record. We also got Lost, which I think is a brilliant track. I love Lost. That was obviously the track they released last year. It was a unreleased song from the second album, which they recently reissued. I think that's a great song, and I'm glad to have that on a record, as well as New Divide. Is it the soundtrack track from the Transformers films? All in all, a bit of a ramble, really, but I do think that there is still a place for greatest hits albums. Part of me would like them to kind of make a bit of a comeback because, as I say, you can be as much of a music snob as you want, demand that everyone should listen to albums in their entirety and shouldn't listen to songs out of place, but sometimes that's just good to do. So, on sticking on the topic of Linkin Park, I thought this was an interesting kind of talking point. I've done a bit of reaching out to get a few comments on this. Is for everyone who knows, Chester, the lead singer of Linkin Park, sadly took his own life back in 2017, and the band has kind of been in this strange kind of state of limbo ever since, where they've not outright said that they're done and it's over and that's it. The band's finished. They haven't really done much. Well, they haven't really done anything since new music wise since Chester's passing, besides a one-off gig, a tribute gig for him. Throughout the years, there has been like these murmurings and these rumours and these whispers from the Linkin Park camp that they have been toying with the idea and they do want to continue the band in some capacity. So, yeah, I think this is quite a hot button issue, really, because on one hand, that's not completely unheard of before. Band members have lost lead singers and recruited new lead singers, and have even got to the point where their lead singer is more well known. It's basically more well known than their previous singer. I think the one example that comes to the top of my head is AC/DC when Bon Scott died and Brian Johnson took over. I think the difference with that is that the band hadn't been going for nearly as long as Linkin Park had been going by the time they lost Chester. I think Linkin Park are in that kind of area, in that bracket now, where you would call me a legacy band. Chester was such an iconic frontman and vocalist. It was such amazing vocal power and such a unique voice. If you were to replace that, I think a lot of people would always make the comparison to whoever took his place, would always be compared to him. I think if they'd made new music, personally, can't imagine it being amazing, to be honest with you. I do have to just be honest there. I think purely because, and as I say, I think we will get into this in another episode on another time, but I do think their discography and the kind of quality and releases did start to dip towards the back end of their back catalogue. So I went onto Reddit to get some opinions from fans on the Linkin Park subreddit. So I'm going to read some out here and just basically kind of respond to them. AT88 says, I would like them to continue as long as they felt genuinely ready to do it. There's nothing worse than a half-hearted comebacks. But if they've got the passion for continuing with Linkin Park, even if it's just some live shows with a guest singer, then it would be great. I don't really get why people wouldn't want them to continue in this scenario. Nothing will change Chester's legacy and what the band achieved with him, and that the other members are just as much as Linkin Park as he is. With the history of Linkin Park, I'm not completely clued up on it, but I don't even think Chester was there right from the start. I think they were together, most of the members, under a different name until Chester joined. It's always this kind of thing, like what is the band, and most of the time when you look at a band, it's always the front man that stands out, and the other members do kind of get sidelined a bit, which is always a bit sad. But I think there was a bit of a different case for Linkin Park because there was this shared vocal role between the two singers, between Chester and Mike. Chester did the melodies and the lead vocal part, and Mike would rap basically and do a bit of singing as well. And I think that really kind of worked and was like really what kind of got them recognised for the band that they became. However, it's such a kind of, it is such, like, with Chester, he's so iconic. You just couldn't imagine that band under anyone else as frontman or to go completely without him. So it's, I haven't really got a clear answer on that myself. It is hard to it's just hard to say, basically. It is a difficult one. Unfortunately, I've cropped out the name of this Redditor's comment, so I'm really sorry about that. So he said, yeah, I want them to continue. I think it would be a waste of everyone, especially Mike's talent, if they wouldn't. They deserve this, and I'm looking forward to see what they can offer. How do I want them to go about it? First and foremost, with respect to Chester's legacy, find a new singer. The new person doesn't have to sing exactly like Chester, but must be able to do those songs justice and to be a good fit for the band. Acknowledge that they're not replacing Chester, but instead they intend to carry on Chester's flag onwards. The new member is here to help, and Chester will never be forgotten. The band would naturally lean on Mike as the presumable leader, even more so than when Chester was alive. Release an EP or a brand new record, pour their heart into a strong statement. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with kind of like whoever comes in now is not the replacement, but there to continue the band's legacy. But I think personally what I'd be happier with is kind of like a situation that Queen kind of did. So, they didn't really do much after Freddie Mercury passed. They toured and they recruited new frontmen. I know the Doors have done that as well and stuff like that. So that's not a terrible idea, really. It is all just kind of down to like respect how tasteful it can kind of be done. Stomach Super 2326 says, I personally would not want them to continue with another singer. I have no problem following them on their own different bands, perhaps. If not all of them would want to join. I think it would be a nice tribute to Chester to leave Linkin Park as it is. In my mind, it would be. What would be the purpose? New music can be done anyway. It does not have to be the new revival of Linkin Park. But of course, if the fans would want this, I guess that could be a reason. Really curious to read the responses and listen to the podcast. Thank you. I think I do way more on that side, really, of let this band be retired, close the book on this band. The problem is like egos get involved and stuff like that. Or the band members, it's always one of them. It's like when you leave a band and start anew, you'll get some people from Linkin Park fandom coming over to join in. But I don't think you basically have to start from scratch and build that general audience up again with Linkin Park and that legacy behind them. They could do a good job if pretty much all the band members carried on under a different name. But I think it would take some rebuilding. And I think that's probably why they aren't really doing that or haven't done that yet. GC137 says, Ollie Sykes are bringing me the horizon. Worked a while back. You need a dude that can sound like a demon and an angel at the same time. Now, I've got to be honest with you. I don't like Ollie Sykes. I don't think he would be a bad choice, though, to be fair. I don't think he would. I think he has definitely been heavily influenced by Chester's vocal style. I definitely think he could pull off performing the Linkin Park songs. But it just goes back to that. It's like, I think the reading a couple of these responses, I do think in a way that it would be great to just close the book on this chapter and just leave it as it is. Did say before, I'm not a bigger fan of their later albums, but I still think they've got a solid enough back catalogue that you can kind of look back on, and that's a respectable history of work. And it's kind of like, do you want to ruin that? Do you want to muddy that legacy? Is it not best to just kind of leave it as it is, as a complete body of work? That's kind of more where I kind of stand on it. So yeah, they were the responses. So I'd just like to thank everyone on that Reddit who gave me a response. I just basically want to get on to the last topic of today's episode of today's podcast. I know it's going to be a bit of a short one. I want to keep bringing these out week by week. I couldn't live with you all doing without, you know what I mean? So tomorrow, time of releasing this, is going to be Record Store Day for all you vinyl enthusiasts out there. Record Store Day is an annual event where loads of independent record stores get in stock of these limited editions, one of a kind, only really released on these days, vinyl and records and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, I want to have a bit of a rant about it. I'm not really liking how it's developed into this massive case of FOMO, the fear of missing out. when I first kind of caught wind of it and wanted to go to one, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. So I just thought I'll get into town fairly early, go a record store and just pick up what I want. No issue. I got there pretty early, and there was a queue. Like at least I don't want to exaggerate this, but it was a long queue. It was like all the way down from one end of a street of a very long street to another. And I got in the queue and I was like, oh my God, what have what have I done? What is this? I did not expect it to be that busy. And I was in that queue for like well over 2 hours. And I remember during the whole time having like the Twitter account up of the store, and they were just giving constant updates of this is sold out, this is sold out, this is sold out. And there was two records in particular that I really wanted, and I really wanted to get them. And the one of them had sold out completely, and then I got the last copy of the other one by the time I got in. And I was like, oh my God, this was, you know what I mean? I was really like, oh crap. So I was like, right, next year I'll get down a bit earlier and I should avoid that problem. Next year comes round, do the same again, get down earlier. Unfortunately, I had my daughter with me at the time, and I couldn't get anyone to take care of her for that day. So I had to kind of like bribe her, like go with me to this, and then later we'll go to the toy store and stuff like that. That was one of the worst mistakes I made in my life. It's bad enough. I struggle to have the patience queuing up for hours. God, how old would she have been at the time? She was only young, 5 or 6, 5 or 6 year old, waiting in a queue for hours for the record. It's not a pretty sight, to be honest. So I got fed up and I was like, right, I can't go to the store. I just can't be going to the store. Can't be going into the city because it's just too busy. And everyone was telling me that was like, oh, there's this store out in another town, bit of a drive away. I got there at 12 o'clock and they had everything and it's great. So I was like, oh, great, I'll move on to this one then. The year after that, nice and early again, drive out, get to this place. There's already about 7 or 8 people in the queue, which I'm a bit anxious about because some of the records I wanted, they only had like 5 in stock or something like that. So, I'm trying to like scout out who's after what. And I just basically come out of it and say to everyone in the queue, who's after the Cure, who's buying the Cure. And they were just basically ignoring me, which just made me even more stressed. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm not gonna, because it was still like a good hour before the store was even opening. And this was during like kind of COVID period. So they were only letting like 2 people in at a time. I was like, so I've got to wait here for hours and hours, and then I might not even get what I want. But that was a successful one that I did all right there, and I was like, right, well, this is obviously going to be my new go-to spot. So the next year, same again, leave quite early, and it was like it wasn't anywhere near as bad as the place I went originally, but word of mouth had spread, and people were onto this spot, and he knew it was a spot to come to. There was a pretty large queue. Again, do the same thing. Say who's after this? Who's after this? They'd all kind of look away and ignore you and stuff like that. You're like, shit. But the good thing about these is it's quite good because you get to kind of have a chat with people. For the good few times I've been, I've always had a nice conversation with the people that are either like in front of me or behind me and stuff like that. And you get talking to them. And I remember like this time, the guy in front of me had told me that like first 4 people right at the front had been there since 2 a.m. 2 a.m. in the morning, and the shop would not open till 9 a.m. And it was just like, oh my God, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? That is insane. And the problem is like with the record store days and stuff, is they only stock one of certain albums, and usually it's like the really popular stuff, like the David Bowie albums and the Beatles albums. And these albums, half the time, are just released on record store day, and that's it. You get one chance to get them, and that's it. I was getting really kind of like agitated at this point because it was like you basically got to like do something ridiculous, like camp out outside the shop just to get a record. And I love vinyl. I love collecting vinyl. I've got a lot of like rare, special editions, limited editions, and stuff like that. But I am not that dedicated to be camping outside the shop. I'm happy to get there early hours in the morning and go out my way. But like, I am not that dedicated to do that. And basically, I discovered the year after. Same people again there at 2 in the morning. I was close enough to them this time to see what they were getting and stuff like that. These people that would camp out at 2 in the morning were basically buying one of everything. And bear in mind, like I said before, some of these, there's only one in stock. And they were buying one of everything. Some people have wide ranges of music taste. Some people like lots of bands, but you would not like everything that was there. You wouldn't. So these are clearly scalpers, you know what I mean? They're clearly buying everything and then selling it online for the jacked up price, which is just wrong. And to be honest, I kind of like spoke out a bit at the place, kind of let my thoughts be known, and said, I kind of find it a bit of a scummy thing what you use at the front are doing. Some people were kind of like silently like nodding and agreeing, but a bit too scared to speak out. And I'm like there was one person behind me who basically just went, well, they got there at 2 o'clock in the morning, so they're entitled to get what they want. And it's like, yeah, technically you are, but you're not. Because as I say, it's just bad. It's just being a bit of a bad person. It's being a bit of a dick, you know what I mean? I just don't like it because, say, if you're just an absolute number one David Bowie fan or like one of them where there's very little stock or something and you just really want that record and you're desperate for it, and then, some tit just fucking buys it just so he can sell it to you on eBay for twice the price. Because it's not so much like the whole events problem. It's not really like the store's problem, but I do think there is a big problem with Record Store Day. I don't think it's getting addressed as much as it should do, but I really am starting to have a bit of a problem with this, especially with the FOMO, the small quantities of releases, and kind of like a bit of the bad sportsmanship that's coming from a lot of people on these days. I think it was either the last one. No, it wasn't the last one I went to. The one before last, there was a Taylor Swift record, which I just kind of picked up as like a bit of a joke, a bit of this would be cool to have in my collection. I've got a few Taylor Swift albums. The people behind me, there was like a couple behind me, and then as I walked out, like, oh, what did you get? What did you get? Told them. I don't really think they said anything at the time, but I think I could see kind of like the fear in the girl's eyes that had got this Taylor Swift album. So I got home and somehow they managed to find me on Facebook, and the guide messaged me and he was basically like, me missus really wanted that Taylor Swift record. She was really devastated that she didn't get it. She'd come out dead early to get it and all that. Would you be willing to sell it? And I said, you know what, fine, fair enough. I got it as just like a kind of a getting it for the sake of getting it. But, if someone really wants something and really wants it, and I'm not that bothered, I'm more than happy to do that. So I sold it at, I think, pretty much the same price, maybe a little bit more expensive, but, you got to respect the hustle, haven't you? But I certainly didn't fleece him, you know what I mean? Certainly didn't fleece him. It was nice to just kind of know that someone would be kind of like really happy, and that disappointment got turned into the eventual like joy. And I think like to kind of wrap this kind of up, I think that should kind of be what Record Store Day is, like a celebration and not like a competition. I think people, especially in these circles and in these groups, fellow, music fans and enthusiasts should, look out for one another. And at the end of the day, saying roll over for anyone, and, just because someone else wanted that record that you got doesn't mean that you have to surrender it over to them. But just have a bit of respect. If you're not that bothered about that special one copy record, don't buy it. Give someone else the chance. That's all I'm saying. Record Store Day tomorrow. I think I'm going to sit this one out for once. There's only one record that I really, really wanted. I will try and find it after the day's done in a shop that might have some overspill. It's sometimes the case. But yeah, I'm going to sit it out this year and have a bit of a break from it, because I do think it's become toxicity kind of behind the whole day, and I think I just need a break from it. Anyway, yeah, thanks for listening to the show. I'm going to wrap this one up here. Bit of a short one this week. Every now and again, there will kind of just be these episodes where I just kind of go on a couple of little topics and that to keep you all entertained out there. If you can, please follow the podcast. Please rate it 5 stars. That would be amazing. Massive help. I'm really trying my best to kind of push this out organically at the moment. I know there are kind of more pay to win kind of ways to get yourself noticed on the internet. I'm trying my best to really do this organically. So the best thing you guys can do is just support me by giving me a follow, rate 5 stars. If you're on YouTube, give it a like, subscribe to the channel. Please go follow me on my socials, John's Jam Sessions on Instagram and Facebook. And please write in, give me some feedback, give me some questions. If you want something to be read out on a future episode, or you want to give your thoughts on something, or if you even want to be a guest, reach out, please. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Bye bye.